The credit card statement lay open on my kitchen table, a quiet betrayal inked in numbers. $19,640. My name is Nora Bennett. I am 56, a retired transit dispatcher, and a widow. Ethan died 6 years ago after a short, vicious illness, and since then I have kept the house we bought in our 30s exactly as we built it, right down to the wobbly cabinet handle he promised to fix. 3 years ago, I added my son Alex to my card for emergencies. He had just moved to a new city, new job, new life. Page after page, the charges told a different story. Harbor View Conservatory, $8,900. Lumiere Garden Studio, $3,250. Blue Finch Catering, $5,180. A tuxedo boutique I had never heard of. A custom ring box engraved with initials I did not recognize. I had not been asked. I had not been told. I had simply been billed. I ran my finger along the total until the ink smudged. I was not angry. Not yet. Stunned is quieter than anger. Stunned is the moment you realize the call is coming from inside your house. This was not identity theft. This was something worse. It was entitlement wrapped in love. My phone buzzed on the counter, face down. A text preview slid across the screen. Engagement dinner was perfect last night. Thank your mom for the wine, babe. I stared at the words until they doubled. Last night. Perfect. Not mine. Not invited. I swallowed hard, tasting metal. I tapped to open the thread and scrolled. Photos bloomed across the glass, soft lights and glassware, a long table under hanging vines. There was Alex at the end, arm around Piper, his fiancée, his smile wide and careless. Family gathered without me. I set the phone down and listened to the house breathe. The vents clicked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, the maple scraped the gutter like a fingernail on a door. Love had a price tag in my family, and I had been paying it so long that no one remembered it was mine. The door from the garage thudded. My daughter Maya called from the hallway that she was running late, and could I spot her grocery money until Friday. Her voice skimmed the surface, never entering the room. I did not answer. I folded the statement and slid it under the ceramic bowl Ethan made in a pottery class to make a joke of his big hands. Silence had been my kindness. I understood suddenly. It had also been my permission. I pulled a yellow legal pad from the drawer and drew a line at the top. No more. I began to plan carefully. Outside, a siren wailed far away, and the sound felt like a line being drawn at last. That night, I sat in Ethan's old recliner, the one with a tear in the armrest, from where our dog used to rest her chin, and stared at the folded statement on the table. The numbers seemed to glow in the dark, etched into my thoughts. $19,640. Not for a surgery. Not for an emergency, for flowers and champagne, and a night I hadn't even been welcome to witness. Maya came in late, dropping her purse on the counter, chattering into her phone. She didn't notice me watching her. At 29, she'd perfected the art of crisis. Rent due, car trouble, unexpected fees, and each one somehow landed on my plate. I remembered all the times I'd taken shifts I didn't want, so there'd be enough for their school trips, the way Ethan and I quietly went without vacations, so they could have new bikes at Christmas. We never kept score. We believed that's what parents did. Earlier that afternoon, when I'd confronted Alex over the phone, his voice had been casual, almost bored. "Mom, it's just money. You've got your pension, the house. You're fine." The words landed harder than the statement itself. Just money. As if decades of work, of saving, of carefully tending to the life Ethan and I built were disposable because they didn't have to earn it. I leaned back, the chair creaking, and stared at the ceiling fan, turning slowly above me. Silence pressed against my ears. I realized then that somewhere along the way, my children had stopped seeing me as a person. I was a safety net, a resource, a bottomless account. I thought of the engagement dinner photos again, the warm light, the laughter, and felt something twist inside me. They had managed to build a world where my absence didn't matter, but my money did. In the dim light of the living room, I reached for my yellow legal pad. At the top, I wrote tomorrow and underlined it twice. 1. Call the credit card company. Freeze the account. Dispute every charge. 2. Call the bank. Remove Alex and Maya's access to anything in my name. Change passwords. 3. Call Laura Bishop, my lawyer. Begin revising my will. The list sat there like a lifeline. For the first time in years, I felt something sharp and clear, cut through the fog. Resolve. I wasn't doing this to punish them. I was doing this because I had finally remembered that I was allowed to protect myself. Outside, a branch tapped against the window in the wind. It sounded like a knock. Only this time, I wouldn't be opening the door for just anyone. Morning came gray and cold, the kind of weather that made the world feel suspended, waiting. I sat at the kitchen table, with my first cup of coffee, the legal pad in front of me, and started making calls. The credit card company rep's voice was polite, professional, but I caught the faint pause when I read out the charges. Yes, Ms. Bennett, we can freeze the account immediately and open a dispute. Since the card holder name is yours, we can also classify these as unauthorized if you didn't give verbal or written consent. The word unauthorized sent a small shiver up my spine. I'd never thought of my own children in those terms, but that was exactly what this was, taking without permission. By 9:30, the account was frozen. The rep assured me the florist, caterer, and venue payments would be halted. I pictured Alex getting those calls, his easy smile faltering. Next, the bank. I had to sit through hold music for almost 15 minutes before reaching a manager. When I explained that both Alex and Maya had debit access to my accounts and I wanted it revoked, he didn't even ask for a reason, just verified my ID and confirmed their cards would be deactivated by noon. I changed my online banking passwords while still on the line, my fingers steady. The final call was to Laura Bishop. It's time to update my will, I told her. Her voice sharpened. What happened? Let's just say I've been too generous for too long. I want to make sure what I've worked for doesn't get drained while I'm still alive, or after. Laura scheduled me for 4 o'clock that afternoon. Before I hung up, she asked, has anyone else in the family tried to access your accounts? I hesitated. Why? She explained she'd had another client discover that a relative had used their information to apply for a personal loan. The words hit me like a cold slap. After we hung up, I logged into my email. Buried in my inbox was a notification from a finance company I didn't recognize, thanking me for initiating your loan application. My stomach tightened. The timestamp was 2 days ago, the same day as the engagement dinner. Alex. There was no one else it could be. I closed the laptop slowly, my coffee gone cold, so it wasn't just the wedding. He'd been looking for ways to pull more, even without telling me. The betrayal deepened, but so did my resolve. I grabbed my purse and headed to the hardware store. The new locks clinked in their package as I set them on the counter, a small, solid weight. By the time the old keys hit the bottom of the kitchen drawer, I'd know exactly who I was letting back into my life, and who I wasn't. The first call came at 10:42 a.m. My phone lit up with Alex's name. I let it ring twice before answering. Mom, what the hell? The florist just called. Your card got declined. His voice was tight, not with worry, but with indignation. I froze the account, I said evenly. A pause, then a short laugh. Why would you do that? Those payments are time sensitive. We're 6 weeks from the wedding. Because I didn't authorize $19,000 of charges. You said emergencies, he shot back. A wedding isn't an emergency, Alex. Not mine, and certainly not yours. There was a rustle, like he'd turned away from the phone. Then came the voice I remembered from his teenage years, half coaxing, half manipulative. Mom, come on, we can fix this. Just call them back, tell them you didn't understand, and they'll reverse the freeze. It's not like you can't afford it. I'm not going to fix something I didn't break. Silence, then a sharp edge. You're really going to ruin your own son's wedding? You love me, right? I love you enough to tell you the truth. You need to pay for your life yourself." The line went dead. By noon, Maya showed up, arms crossed. "What's this about you freezing accounts? Alex says you're overreacting." "Overreacting is waking up to find nearly 20,000 gone without a word." She rolled her eyes. "He's your son. You're supposed to help him. You've always helped me." "That's exactly the problem." She opened her mouth to argue, but I cut her off. "Maya, if you're here to guilt me, save your breath. I'm done funding crises that aren't mine." Her face hardened, but she didn't leave right away. She wandered the living room, running her finger along the mantel. "You know, you're pushing us away." "No," I said, just stepping back from a place I never should have been standing." That night as I was locking up, I passed by the office and heard a faint buzz from my phone on the desk, an email notification. Another loan application update. I opened it and scanned quickly. This one listed co-applicant beside my name, Alex's full legal name. It wasn't just about money anymore. He was trying to tie me to his debts. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the realization that this was exactly how people lost everything without ever signing a thing. I set the phone down and stared at the front door. I'd already changed the locks. Now it was time to change the rules entirely. The knock came just after lunch the next day. Firm, deliberate. Nothing like the impatient pounding Alex used when he was mad. When I opened the door, a tall man in a navy windbreaker stood on my porch. He had the kind of posture that spoke of discipline. And though I didn't recognize him immediately, his eyes had the same sharp blue as Piper, Alex's fiancée. "Mrs. Bennett?" he asked. "Yes, I'm Michael Carter, Piper's older brother." I hesitated. "If you're here about the wedding..." "I am," he said, cutting in. "But not for the reason you think." I stepped aside, and he followed me into the kitchen. His gaze flicked briefly to the legal pad on the counter, the new locks still in their package by the sink. "I'm going to be blunt," Michael began, sitting across from me. "My parents were furious when they found out you froze the payments. They accused you of humiliating Piper. But when I heard the number, over 19 grand, on one card, I started asking questions. The answers didn't add up." I said nothing, letting him speak. "Turns out, Alex didn't tell my sister where the money came from. He just said his family was taking care of it." And when I dug deeper, Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a cashier's check, sliding it across the table. "This is 9,000. My half of what I know came from you. I can't return what's already been spent on non-refundable things, but this you should have." I stared at the check. "You don't have to." "I do," he interrupted, his voice firm. "Because I don't want my family tied to someone who manipulates the people who love him. And before you ask, yes, I called off the wedding." The words landed like a stone dropped in still water. "You called it off?" He nodded. "I confronted Piper, and she admitted she didn't know the full story. But here's the part you need to hear. Alex has been hiding other debts, credit cards, personal loans, all in the last year. He's been planning to use the wedding funds to cover them before anyone noticed." I felt my stomach twist. It confirmed every suspicion I'd had since that first email about the loan application. Michael's expression softened. "I don't know what happened between you two before this, but I do know you deserve better than being bled dry by your own son. Keep the check. Consider it a small step towards setting things right." For the first time in days, I felt something unexpected. Validation. Someone outside my own house saw the truth without me having to explain or justify it. When Michael left, the check sat on the table, like proof that I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't alone. But I also knew Alex wasn't going to let this end quietly. It was barely 8 a.m. the next morning when I heard a car door slam hard enough to rattle the windows. Through the blinds, I saw Alex storming up the walkway, his jaw tight, his fists clenched. I opened the door before he could start pounding on it. "What do you want, Alex?" "I need to move back in," he said flatly. "The wedding's off. I'm staying at a buddy's place, but it's temporary. You have the space." "No," I said. His eyes narrowed. No, you've got 3 empty bedrooms, and you're gonna let your own son sleep on couches? This isn't your home anymore. That door closed when you left me out of your life, but still expected me to fund it. He stepped closer, his voice rising. You're unbelievable. You've always been dramatic, but this is just cruel. You think kicking me when I'm down makes you strong? What I think, I said evenly, is that love doesn't mean unlimited access. You've crossed lines you can't uncross, Alex. His face twisted. Oh, you mean money. You've been keeping score all these years. Every dollar, every favor. I shook my head. I didn't keep you score, that's the problem. I gave without limit, and you learned to take without asking. That ends now. He laughed bitterly. You know what? Fine. Don't help me. But don't come crawling to me. Binyan, you need someone in your old age. Don't expect grandkids to visit. You're gonna die alone in this house. Something inside me stilled. That's the difference between us, Alex. You think consequences are punishment. I think they're necessary. And if respecting myself means being alone, I'll take that over being used. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his expression. Uncertainty, maybe even shame. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. He turned on his heel, muttering under his breath, and slammed the door behind him, hard enough to make the picture frames rattle. I stood in the quiet afterward, my pulse steady, my hands still. I'd braced for a wave of guilt, but it didn't come. Instead, there was only a clean stillness, like air after a storm. I had drawn the line, and for once, I hadn't stepped back from it. The first day after Alex stormed out, the house felt cavernous. I caught myself listening for the sound of doors opening, footsteps on the stairs, the low hum of voices drifting in from the living room. Nothing. By the third day, the quiet stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like space. 3 weeks passed without a single call or text from Alex or Maya. No demands, no passive-aggressive memes, no urgent requests for help. The only ring of the doorbell came from the mailman or the occasional neighbor. The stillness that used to feel like grief now felt like ownership. Midway through that third week, I received a letter from the credit card company. The dispute had been resolved in my favor. $19,640 credited back to my account. No charges filed against Alex, my choice, but no access restored either. That same afternoon, I finally tackled the half-painted hallway Ethan and I had started years ago. I found the old paint cans in the garage, brushed the dust off, and turned on the radio. With each stroke of the roller, the beige walls gave way to warm cream. It felt like reclaiming more than just a hallway. A few days later, I was kneeling in the front garden, tugging weeds from the rose bed, when a voice drifted over the fence. "You've got new blooms coming in," a woman called. I looked up to see Linda Parsons, my new next-door neighbor, holding a mug of coffee. She was in her late 60s, short silver hair catching the sunlight. We'd waved a few times, but never talked beyond polite greetings. "I guess I do," I said, brushing dirt from my hands. Linda tilted her head. "I'm making a second pot. Why don't you come over?" That morning turned into a ritual. Some days we sat on her porch, some days on mine. We talked about books, birds, and how setting boundaries felt like finally exhaling after years of holding your breath. The more we talked, the more I realized how long it had been since I'd had a conversation with someone who didn't want something from me. One Thursday, Linda handed me a flyer from the community center. "They're looking for volunteers for the fire safety program," she said. "You'd be perfect. I told them you're retired from the transit system and know the city like the back of your hand." I found myself smiling, really smiling. It felt good to be wanted for my time, my knowledge, my presence, not my wallet. And for the first time in years, I thought, maybe this is what peace actually looks like. 2 weeks later, I was at the community center, helping a group of fourth graders learn how to plan a fire escape route for their homes. Their chatter was bright, their pencils tapping against paper as they traced little arrows from bedrooms to driveways. I'd forgotten how much I liked teaching, how satisfying it felt to give something real that couldn't be swiped, drained, or spent. When I got home that afternoon, A white envelope sat on my porch. My name was written in Alex's handwriting, slightly slanted like it always had been. For a moment, my chest tightened. I carried it inside, sat at the kitchen table, and slid a finger under the flap. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Dad, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't blame you. I've started counseling. I'm cutting back expenses, looking for work outside the city. I don't expect you to fix anything. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. Alex. I read it twice. There was no ask, no hidden request, just words. I didn't know if they were a beginning or an ending, but either way, they were his to own. I set the letter in the drawer with my legal pad, not ready to answer, but not ready to throw it away either. Later, Linda knocked on my door with another woman in tow. Elaine, a new widow from the library group. Thought she should join our coffee mornings, Linda said. We sat on my porch, the late afternoon light spilling gold across the railing, talking about the way grief changes shape over time. Elaine laughed at something Linda said, and the sound of it blended with the distant hum of the neighborhood, warm and alive. As the sun dipped behind the houses, I realized I hadn't thought about the empty bedrooms all day. They were just rooms now, not monuments to loss, or spaces waiting to be filled by people who saw me as a safety net. I poured us each another cup of coffee and listened as Linda and Elaine debated the best way to plant hydrangeas in poor soil. And I knew the truth. Peace wasn't the absence of people. It was the absence of being used. Lesson. You are not defined by what you give away to keep others happy. You are defined by the life you choose when you stop being afraid to say no.